Brian Wilson is one of the geniuses of rock and roll, and he's come real close to being one of its casualties. He was the creative force of the Beach Boys as their songwriter, producer, and lead singer. He wrote surf songs, car songs, songs about girls, and heartfelt melancholy ballads. In 1964, Brian Wilson had his first nervous breakdown and retired from performing, but continued to write, record, and produce. Some of his best work was still ahead of him, like the album Pet Sounds and the record Good Vibrations. But that was followed by a period where he did no work at all. For about 2 years, he didn't even leave the house. His weight ballooned to about 300 pounds. It was assumed that his overindulgence in drugs and the trauma of having been abused by his father as a child contributed to Wilson's failed mental health. For the past few years, Wilson has been under the almost constant care of his psychologist, Dr. Eugene Landy. Landy has been alternately described as a miracle worker and a Svengali. Dr. Landy is currently under investigation by the Board of Medical Quality Assurance, a California state watchdog group. He's accused of exploiting his relationship with Wilson by serving as business manager, executive producer, and co-songwriter, while also serving as his therapist. He's charged with prescribing drugs, although he is not an MD, and he's charged with sexually abusing one of his female patients. But under Landy's care, Wilson has lost over 100 pounds and follows a fitness regimen, including daily workouts. And Wilson credits Landy with his return to music, to the recording studio, and to the public eye. Brian Wilson's new record is his first solo production away from the Beach Boys. He produced it, wrote the songs, plays many of the instruments, sings lead, and sings most of the backup voices. How did you start writing songs again? How did you get back into it?
Well, it's not a real long story. It's just that Gene Landy, who is my executive producer and my collaborator, he told me that he thought maybe I needed to put a new album out under my name, the first time ever, like a solo, first time ever album, that I've ever done that. And I told him at first, I said, well, I don't know. I think I'm a Beach Boy for life, and I'm kind of like, I'm sort of into the Beach Boys. And I said, well, I'll think about it. And a couple of days later, I told him, okay, Gene, I guess you're right. I think I should do a solo album. And I said, but I'll do it at my pace, So we did it at my pace. We went slow. We took weeks to get one thing, But it took us a year to get the whole album.
Was getting away from the Beach Boys and doing a solo album something that you personally wanted to do for a long time?
Yes. That's something I really wanted to do very badly.
Why?
Getting away from the Beach Boys?
Yeah.
Because I had about a 25-year standing with them, and it was like a long stint, of work and not getting along with the guys, and then getting along with them, and then not getting along with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Now, on the new album, you play most of the instruments, you record most of the voices yourself. When you write a song, do you hear all the harmonies in your head as you write it? All the vocal harmonies?
Yeah, I do. I hear most of them in my head as I write them. We used to go do the whole group at once, the Beach Boy group. We do all the voices in one thing, on one microphone, But sometimes we use 2 and 3 microphones depending on how we wanted it to sound. But so we did these, but with my solo album, it's like it's a venture into one at a time land. You know what I mean? You go one at a time.
You do them one at a time.
One at a time. Yeah, one voice at a time. Yeah.
How would you teach the harmonies to the Beach Boys when you were working with them?
When I worked with the Beach Boys, I taught them one at a time also, and then we would rehearse as a group, and then we put it on tape, and we go to the microphone and put it on tape.
So you'd sing the part to each of them?
Yeah.
How do you think the Beach Boys feel about you going solo? Do they mind?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think the Beach Boys mind at all. No, I think they're happy. We had a corporation meeting in Chicago 3 weeks ago, and the guys and Al and Carl both congratulated me on the success of my album.
I have to say it really feels good to have you back recording again, to listen to new music of yours, and I was wondering how it feels to be back.
Well, what it feels like to be back is kind of exciting. It's an exciting venture, I added up the odds. What are my odds to get on the charts with my new album? And I got on the charts. I mean, even when the odds are against you, you can do something, incredible.
You've said that your early sound was influenced by the Four Freshmen.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people would have thought of the Four Freshmen as being a really square group in their harmonies. What did you really like about them?
What did I like?
Mm-hmm.
I liked the way they blended their voices. The sound they made as they blended their voices. I thought they were great. I didn't see anything wrong with the Four Freshmen at all.
What else did you listen to when you were young?
I listened to Rosemary Clooney,
Uh-huh.
and the Four Freshmen, and just different people, you know.
How did you start singing in falsetto, and how did you figure out that you could have a falsetto voice?
Well, because I used to practice the freshman with the high voice in the Four Freshmen, and his name was Bob Flanagan, and I practiced along with him. Whenever I'd hear freshman songs, I'd sing along with the high note, you know. And I got into a habit of singing high. And when the Beach Boys came along, I just took that habit of mine, that habit, bad or good, just a habit of singing high, you know. So then I started saying, hey, I sound like a girl up here. So I got into it, you know.
The first songs that you wrote
Yeah.
and recorded were surf songs. Now, you'd never surfed yourself, right? What was the inspiration for writing surfing songs?
My inspiration for writing surfing songs goes back to my brother Dennis, who drowned, of course, in December of 1983. He asked me if I would be interested in writing a song about surfing. Hold it. Excuse me, I had a yawn. And I said, sure, I'll try it. And I tried it. And about a month later, we were on the Los Angeles charts, on the Los Angeles charts with surfing, you know.
You were actually afraid of water yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, I have an aversion to water. I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly what it is. Could be that I think I saw somebody drown in a pool once. This guy drowned, and I saw the ambulance come get him at the, you know, and it kind of scared me to death. And I think that turned me off to water.
Do you know how to swim?
Do I know how to swim? Oh, yeah, I swim all the time.
Oh, okay.
In Los Angeles. In Malibu, where I live, I go swimming all the time.
So you're not that afraid of water?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I still have a little bit of a fear of it, especially the ocean.
Did you have to pretend like you were a surfer when the Beach Boys first got started?
No, not at all. We didn't play the role of surfers. We sang about surf and girls, but we did not, whatever.
I want to play one of your early surf records.
What song's that?
This is Catch a Wave.
Catch a Wave. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
It's the production on this is just terrific. There's a harp, there's an organ. It's great touches on it. Would you say a little bit about how you produced this record?
Catch a Wave?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Michael and I wanted to do something where we would display the high voice, the medium voice, and the bass voice, all in one record. You know, at different intervals. You know what I mean? Not all at once sometimes, but separate from each other. You know, and it starts at "Don't be afraid to try the great." That's the bass part, right? And then da 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 was my voice, and then Michael da 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 da, and then he was in the middle too. So he sang bass and middle, and I sang high.
What about the instrumentation?
The instrumentation was just two guitars, a piano, drums, and a harp, and stuff like that.
Okay, let's hear it. Catch a Wave.
Catch a wave and you're sitting on top of the world. Don't be afraid to try the greatest sport around. Catch a wave, catch a wave. Those who don't just have to put it down. You paddle out, turn around and raise, and baby, that's all there is to the coastline craze. You gotta catch a wave and you're sitting on top of the world.
I don't know if you listen to your old records very much, but what goes through your mind when you hear that?
Well, a lot of stuff. When I hear old records, it just flutters through my mind. You mean in as far as my opinion of what it sounds like, or my sentimentality to it?
Both.
Well, I feel more artistically aware than sentimental. You know, my first reaction is usually an artistic, like, oh, I think my voice flatted. I wish I had just taken a few more minutes to get it right in the studio. You know, young and impulsive, right? Young and restless. Want to get through. Want to get out of here. Want to go swimming. Want to go to a movie. You know, so that's how it used to happen to me. And then the sentimental value would creep in, and I think, oh gosh, you know, how could I have made a record that great? You know, and that kind of thing crosses my mind too. So there's artistic criticism, self-criticism, and then there's sentimentality. Those two ingredients go into that.
What about thinking back to how you felt at the time you recorded it?
Oh, well, the way I felt, you mean? Well, it was kind of like when I was in my 20s, or early 20s, I was full of energy, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I darted around. I could do anything. I could produce a record. I could go to a movie. I could go running. I could do anything. You know what I mean? When I was in my early 20s, I was a real bombardier. I mean, I was really a hustler, you know?
And now?
And now, I've slowed down a little bit, but because I've been exercising so much lately, I'm getting my second wind in life. You know what I mean? It's not like being 22 again or 24, but it's odd. You know, you go through these trips in your life when you're, how old are you?
37.
37.
I always have to think.
Gosh, I mean, can you remember what it's like to be 22? It's just
A
like,
little bit,
you
yeah.
can sort of remember, but like when you get a little older, you sort of slow down a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the one thing I don't want to do is slow down because I don't want to die. So I'm going to keep going real fast.
Okay, Brian Wilson is my guest. When you were writing songs like Fun, Fun, Fun,
Yeah.
did you think of yourself as having a lot of fun?
Well, Mike came up with those words. But yes, I did think of myself as having fun, fun, fun. But he mostly, because he wrote those lyrics. He wrote that part of the lyrics.
Okay. Now, you also wrote a lot of really melancholy songs.
Yes.
And on Pet Sounds, for instance, you have a wonderful song. I wasn't made for these times.
Oh, yeah.
And I was wondering if you ever felt reluctant to expose that part of yourself to your listeners.
You mean the Pet Sounds?
Mm-hmm. Well, especially songs like that, those
Yeah.
feeling out of place type songs.
Yeah, I did that because lyrically, I did feel kind of like, I felt like a little Bob Dylan. You know, Bob Dylan was a message man with lyrics too, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I kind of was a spokesman for the Beach Boys. I had turned into a legitimate artist in my own right. And it was a very newfound power for me, right? Have you ever experienced a newfound power, a mental power? You say, well, wait a minute, man. I'm way smarter than I used to be. You know, and like some kind of an awareness or something, you know? That kind of thing goes on a lot in my life.
When you wrote I Just Wasn't Made for These Times,
Yeah.
was that how you were feeling?
When I wrote that, it was like a thing of, I really was feeling that way. Yes, I was, because I felt that I was being rejected by some of my friends, you know.
For what?
Who knows? You know, I just felt a rejection from the public. You know, I can't explain it, you know, any more than that. It was a very super personal thing. It was a personal thing that I cannot really go into because it's too deep, you know.
Well, I want to play some of that song. And this
Okay.
is from your 1966 album, Pet
Yes.
Sounds, which is really one of the legendary albums in
Yes, in the history of
in history of rock and roll.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you want to say anything else about what you were feeling when you wrote this?
Sure, I felt I had prayer sessions with my brother Carl, and we both prayed for people's safety and well-being, and we made this album with the fact that love was going to be the predominant theme in the album, with of course artistic and entertaining kind of music going on at the same time, but the love came from the voices that we did, and we just got into a little trip where we were going to bring some spiritual love to the world, you know. And we really did. You know, we actually did because we wanted to in our souls, you know. We both felt the calling, you know, so why not pray for this album and nurture it along and pray and have prayer sessions, you know. So it was very religious. It was a religious experience, like taking, some people think that psychedelic drugs are a religious experience, you know. And that's how I felt about, of course, about Pet Sounds.
Okay, so from Pet Sounds, this is Brian Wilson's I Just Wasn't Made for These Times.
I think I got something good going for myself, but what goes? Sometimes I feel very sad. Sometimes I feel I put my heart and soul into. Sometimes I feel I put my heart and soul into. I guess I just wasn't made for these times.
When you were recording the record that we just heard an excerpt of, Pet Sounds, I think that was during a period when you were doing a lot of drugs.
Yes, I was.
How did the drugs affect your music, both in the good ways and the bad ways that it
Well, the
affected
bad
you?
ways, there's no way drugs can influence music in a bad way. That's a misnomer, or it's not.
No way drugs can influence music in a bad way?
No, music. I don't understand unless you feel that somebody would make, unless you call heavy metal a very negative statement. You know, a very obtrusive, a very unartistic, or let's say destructive kind of a music that would provoke those kind of feelings. You know. No, actually, it's a matter of learning from these drugs. You know, you can go on drugs and make music, yes, on drugs, you know, but you're much better to make music off of drugs because you can see the overall picture better. When you make music on drugs, you're too concerned with this line or that voice or this and that, other than just being behind it all the way behind it and putting together music from a higher standpoint than drugs can take you.
So are you saying that you'd use drugs for inspiration, but when you actually recorded, you try to not be high? Is that what you're saying?
No high in the studio, no.
Okay. How did the drugs have a bad effect on you?
Well, they exposed me to my weaknesses, to the things in my life that I'm weak on, and it's painful to have to sit there and accept your limitations in life. You know what I mean? But it's okay. It's okay at the same time. It's okay to go through those changes. Everybody goes through them. Everybody's going to always go through them.
You went through a period of time where you barely left the house and didn't do much recording or producing at all. What did you do during that time? What was life like for you?
I took a lot of drugs. I kept taking more and more drugs to get away from the rattly bang, nerve-wracking aspects of life, I kept telling myself, turn it down, somebody, turn it down. That's like a way of saying, hey, cool it, It's like, turn it down, it's too loud, And I went through some of that, and, like everybody does. Everybody goes through that turn it down thing, where they want it down lower, not quite so loud. Maybe down here, a little lower.
Besides drugs and stuff, what gave you pleasure?
Well, what gave me pleasure? Well, when I heard a first Phil Spector record on the radio, I said, Phil, that Phil knows exactly what to put out there. He knows the formula, the secret, of rock and roll. And I used to look up to the guy. And then I said to myself, you can't all your life walk around idolizing somebody. You got to do your own thing, it would be too easy. It would be too easy for me to sit around and think about Gene Landy all day, my executive producer. But no, I go about my work, I think of him often during the day because he's made such a powerful influence. He's had such a powerful influence over my life,
You mentioned him. He's not only credited with executive producing your new record, but he's the psychiatrist whose care you've been under for the past few years.
Yeah, he's been performing a health operation on my head. He's done something that's impossible that nobody could do.
What do you think he's done that's really worked for you?
Well, what he's done that worked for me was he's taken my body and transformed not only my physical shape, but he's transformed the chemistry within my blood, from dirty to clean. And when you go through those transformation periods, you go through a little hell. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of hell to have to come through all that, right? It was rough, and I do remember all of it, But no, it doesn't slow you down. It speeds you up. You look back. That's how everybody does. They look back. Why, that son of a gun. I'll get him. No, wait a minute. You want to go forward, and you want to say, hey, to heck with that guy. I'm going forward. I'm not going to spend half of my life on revenge. That would be absurd. You know what I mean?
He's not with you today, but one of his associates, I believe, is traveling with you. Does he live with you now, the doctor?
No, the doctor does not live with me, but he lives in the same city with me, and he's in touch with me every day. And Kevin, Leslie, and Chris Rogerson, the assistants, the doctor's assistants, work in a capacity of work with me and Gene. They float kind of between me and him, and they maintain the strength and the atmosphere. They help to keep up the atmosphere of the tour and the spirit of the tour. And for as much as I can say, I just say woo.
There's currently charges pending against him that are being investigated, ethical violations. And I was wondering if you cared to comment about them.
See, my family called in and made a bunch of accusations about Gene Landy, which are not true. Those accusations are false, and I can prove it. I know they're false, and there's nothing they said that was even anywhere near in the ballpark. All of it was out of the ballpark.
So
none of it was in the ballpark.
You think your family wants to get you out of his care?
Yeah, they want to get me away from him. They don't understand how good he is for me. What has he done? What does the man do for me? What does the man make me do that's good for me? You know what I mean?
It's really a thrill to hear a new record from you, and also to have the opportunity to sit across the table from you,
Thank you.
And interview you. And I was wondering how you feel about being back in the public eye like this again. It's really been a long time since you've done interviews and appeared before the public.
It's just been so long that it's such that has so much impact on me. I haven't done this kind of a promotional tour ever since like the early Beach Boy days.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
It really is. It was like 25 years ago, I guess we were into that. Oh, I'm telling you, it was something.
How are you pacing yourself?
Well, I'm not smoking cigarettes and I'm not doing things like that for crutches. You know, people sit and have a cigarette break every 10 minutes, right? Well, I don't do that anymore. I don't smoke cigarettes because cigarettes are bad for me. They give you cancer. Who in the world would want to smoke cigarettes knowing that they give you cancer? You know what I mean?
I would like to end with another selection from your new album. And I want to play One for the Boys, which is an homage to the Beach Boys, where you do all the voices.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing here.
On the voices?
Yeah.
On that song, One for the Boys?
Mhm.
It was all, it's sort of a little song in tribute to the Beach Boys. And it has no instruments on it, just voices. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different vocal tracks going. I put them on all one at a time. And it was like done with the 4 freshmen in mind. It's a tribute to the 4 freshmen and the Beach Boys both, you know? And I was most proud to make that song because it sounds so pretty. And I hope people like it.
And you do all the voices on it.
Yes, I do. I did all the voices on it.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us, and I wish you the best. Thank you. Brian Wilson has been my guest, and here's a selection from his new solo album, his first solo album, Brian Wilson.